There you go. Now I'm live. Yeah. What was that? Okay, there we are. Oh, so let's try this again. All right, so everybody, this is Alex Deering, and this is Talks with Alex. And I have some wonderful guests today. They are teachers and administrators in our public school system. And they are six amazing people that just so happen to be my friends. And so I just want to kind of introduce them to you. I actually thought that I introduced them to you before, but actually I didn't. So I'm still learning this platform. Let me share this screen with you so I can tell you about who they are. So we have Brittany Lee-Bey. She's going to be coming on in a couple of minutes. She's at Washington Latin Public Charter School in Washington, D.C. We have Jazmin Evans, and she's at Deep Roots Charter School in Philadelphia, PA. We have Brandi Waller-Pace. She's the executive director of Decolonizing the Music Room at Bruce Schulke Elementary in Fort Worth, Texas. And we have Chelsea McCoy-Bryant, and she's at Henrico County Public Schools in Richmond, Virginia. All right, now that we got all that done, let's try it again. Hey, everybody.
Hi.
What's going down, Vic?
How you doing?
Good.
Okay, we're good. It's good. So I got a couple of questions for you guys that I want to ask, that I mulled over a whole long time to try to make sure that this conversation stays deep yet relaxed, and so we can give some people some information about what's going on, okay? So the first question I want to ask all of you is, what exactly do you teach? And you can kind of tell everybody what you teach, what grades you teach in those classrooms. And we'll start with Jazmin.
Hi, everyone. So I am currently in Philadelphia. I'm a founding fifth grade teacher. So I teach science, social studies, and guided reading, as well as being a middle school consultant because our school is gradually increasing with enrollment.
Okay. All right. Brandi?
I teach general music at Bruce Schulke Elementary in Fort Worth, Texas, which is kindergarten through fifth grade, in addition to my nonprofit educational work.
Okay. Okay. And Chelsea?
I am the current critical response teacher running the Behavior Learning Intervention Support Service Program for grades 6th through 8th, and I teach social skills, self-regulation, and coping with students with disabilities pertaining to emotional disorders.
Okay. And Brittany?
Hello.
Welcome.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for being patient with me. So I'm a reading specialist at Washington Latin Public Charter School, and I teach 5th, 6th, and 7th grade reading intervention classes. I manage our middle school reading program, and I'm the debate coach of a policy debate team through the Washington Oversight League.
Okay. All right. So again, I am so glad to have you all here. You guys are all my friends. It's crazy to kind of see you guys in a professional aspect, but we're gonna actually have a really good conversation. So I hope you guys are ready. And so I'm going to shoot the first question at you guys. How has COVID changed your teaching environments? Completely. Like, how have you guys had to adjust the way you teach in your respective areas? We can start with you, Brittany.
With me?
Yes.
Okay. So I would say the big thing that my principal says is that we are a very relational school. So we're all about, building relationships and being present with students. And so she said this is going to be a hard hit. And she wasn't wrong. I think particularly the students that I teach, because a lot of them need some kind of support, whether it's through special education or English language learning. They need additional support. And so a lot of the motivation that I see that we provide is very in person, very much in person. It's very physical. And just not being able to provide that or having to be creative about it is the number one thing that I've noticed has shifted. I think also it's starting to highlight gaps in the type of support that we provide our struggling students. And so I think and the positive is it shows us what we need to work on going forward to really support all learners.
How about you, Brandi? Like, how has it changed for you? I mean, you're a music teacher. And
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a lot different for you in Texas. How has it been going?
Yeah, it's been there have been some things that have been a lot harder. You know, music teachers teach the entire student body, and sometimes we're not treated the same as core. So kids who might be struggling to keep up with subjects that fall within their homeroom, maybe they don't necessarily get to my classroom. And so the result is I don't really get to see my babies as much as I want to. It's harder for me to do any type of learning that's synchronous because I can't get entire grade levels of children together. So I've had to shift my focus to things that I feel like excite interest, make them think, and allow me to get some feedback. But kind of meter that, knowing that if I get what I want, I've got 500 kids worth of things in a format that's totally different from my usual instruction. And just the general lack of being able to have something with immediate response is a really, really huge difference.
I hear that. How about you, Jazmin?
So we've, like everyone, we moved completely to online. Me specifically focusing on science, which is like a tested subject. It's been extremely difficult with the older kids, especially because everything is lab based. So being that we moved to online, like a lot of things we just had to modify and figure it out on the fly, such as like virtual labs or other things to kind of like really get students like immersed in the content so that they are at least practicing some skills while they're not in school during this time.
How about you, Chelsea?
Well, yes, everything is online for us. I think the biggest challenge is the fact that the school year is technically over, so there's no more grades. So getting kids to buy into the enrichment program that Virginia has started, well, at least for Henrico County Public Schools, because there's other counties where they're done. They don't have to do any other work until the school year. But for my county, we're having this enrichment program, which is kind of optional for kids to continue learning, and the buy-in is really low. And then for me and my job specifically, it's hard because, of course, I tell it to behavior, and of course, kids aren't misbehaving with their parents too much at home as they would in school. So it's a little more challenging to have Google chats with them to make sure that they're staying in their lane when they're at home. And again, getting kids to actually buy in, because out of my caseload, I only had about 5 kids participate. So it's a challenge in that sense because kids are really missing out on learning and getting prepared for the next school year. So it's just another battle that everyone has to face with people falling behind and again getting passed through when they're not ready. So that's what I'm seeing.
Well, I mean, you actually bring up a really good point, Chelsea, because you're going to lead me right into my next question. Because my concern always is for the children, right? How do you think this is really affecting the children during this time? Like, do you feel like they're learning better? Do you feel like it's not good for them? Like, I mean, is this something that you see happening in specific children that live in specific places? Like, how is it affecting your students? And I can toss it back to you, Chelsea, real quick, and then we'll go on to Jazmin. Okay.
No problem. I think that it depends on where you are. Some kids are taking this enrichment and benefiting from it, actually taking time to learn things and communicate with their teachers and having parents still involved. But for the students who are not, I really feel like it's a doing this online is a disservice to many kids who already struggle getting it. Depending again, like where I am, there's a big discrepancy between the East End and the West End as far as resources, as far as parent involvement, as far as everything. I work in the East End where we don't really see that. And it's a struggle because these kids who already are struggling, we're already trying our hardest to get on grade level. Now you're throwing this curve at them, and it's like they just continue to fall farther and further behind. So for the kids who are taking advantage of the opportunity, I think it's beneficial. For those who are not, we just have to figure out what to do to fix the problem, because doing it online and giving it as an option is really a disservice to students.
That's good. That's good. Well, no, that's not good. But what you're saying is good. It's leading the conversations where I like to talk about things. I mean, we could talk about the discrepancy in the wealth distribution and lack of resources in certain communities. Jazmin, you want to go ahead and talk about how it's been affecting your students and here in Philadelphia?
Yeah, so kind of similar to Chelsea, like there's definitely been a struggle with student buy-in. Students are aware that grades are kind of done, and we're definitely done for the school year. And we've already had some issues with parental involvement. So that's definitely been a struggle for us at our school, being that we're like a brand new charter in a fairly rough area. We're really trying to focus on students' like emotional well-being. So during this time, it's definitely been trying to support them in that way when we're physically not face to face, or we don't really have the resources that we normally have to be able to help them to be successful.
And so, I mean, just to recap with you, Jazmin, you work with the babies, right? How old are your students again?
They are in 5th grade.
In 5th grade. Okay. Yep. Yeah. Brandi.
Yeah, I think I can echo what Chelsea and Jazmin said. There's some very obvious disparities that that I can see in my district, but I have kids that are in elementary and middle school, my own children, and I can even see the difference in how things go at their school compared to the school where I teach. And because I teach K through 5, I can see my highest enrollment is in the grades with children who can be more autonomous. But as it gets younger and younger, I'm able to have contact with less students. And it seems like there are less students who are able to easily handle whatever they need to do with the work, because they just need the kind of support that is so specialized. Because, you know, kind of putting on my parent hat, I'm a parent who's a teacher. I feel like I can help my kids, but if I'm not in their content area with the tools that they are trained to use, with the strategies they're trained to use, there's even a level of disconnect there. And so you can see it. I can see it with my own children with things that are a little harder to help with. And then I can see that with my students as well. And the percentage is not as high as I would like. So I feel like there are a lot of students who are just, you know, focusing on being emotionally okay. Hopefully are in safe situations, because that's always a concern. But my understanding is that sometimes the grades are just the least of their worries. And at this point, the inequity is just so wide. I just call them privileged grades, to be quite honest.
Yeah. But you say you're also seeing the inequities happen as the children get younger, right? Is it hard to keep their focus on the screens of trying to learn?
Yeah, so for me, like even initial contact, if I go to my kinder and my 1st grade babies, there are a lot I just completely don't have contact with. My own child is a 1st grader, and I can see trying to get her engaged in what her teacher is given. Oh, this is why it could be difficult for the parents of students I'm teaching. And I have the privilege of being a teacher, of being able to be at home, not counted as an essential worker, having to be in a physical space. So, I totally understand it, but it is what it is, I think.
Brittany, what have you been seeing? I mean, I know that your school is a little bit different, right?
Yes. So my school immediately was able to garner resources and have every student have their own Chromebook if they didn't already have devices at home. So everyone's one-to-one. And everybody's on hands on deck. So people who are not instructional staff are working with our students that typically struggled in the classroom, who were the most likely to check out, and have been meeting with them twice a week for a couple hours at a time. We've had a slew of teachers volunteer to go take things to students. I would say that our school makeup allows for us to have a lot of resources.
Mhm.
I'm telling Alex that I've been teaching for about almost 14 years, and this is the first time I've ever taught at a school where um, the racial makeup is very different
Mhm.
from other DC schools, as well as the socioeconomics. So
Mhm.
I'm hearing from my DCPS friends, and the struggles that they're experiencing mirror a lot of what you all have mentioned thus far. And I would say we have a handful of
Mhm.
students who also, like, resource wise, parents not being available to provide support and motivation. However, we have a good number of students who I would say are on top of things. And I think it has a lot to do with socioeconomics. Parents being at home, being able to, I mean, I tutor as well. I have a tutoring business. So um, I have clients who can afford to continue to pay me to tutor and help their students, help their children with either classwork or the particular area that I tutor in, which is reading remediation. So,
Okay.
I see inequities in terms of race and um, socioeconomic, and it's just, this is my
Mhm.
first time ever being on the other end, seeing the benefits and the privileges that a lot of children in the city have. Like, I never really knew how much, and I think
Mhm.
that this just highlights it even further.
Yeah, we were talking about, I mean, last night when we were talking on the phone, we were talking about the pipeline, right? Where like sometimes it's like unintentional. I mean, if a school lacks certain resources, it makes it difficult for the child to succeed. And a situation like this only exacerbates it because it's just like, they already don't have enough resources. And then when you move past that and you go to um, a situation where like they're now completely disconnected from the thing that may be keeping them away from a dysfunctional home, or you remove them from the thing that was giving them consistent meals, it puts them in a really bad situation that is not conducive for learning. But one of the things I do want to definitely hit on, and I'm going to throw it back at you, I'll start with Brandi, because she also brought it up too. We talked about the parent involvement in the whole educational process. And I mean, like, and if you're going to talk about socioeconomics, you also have to talk about the education levels of parents that are there now trying to support their students in this virtual learning. And it's now become very, very parent heavy on supporting their children as they go through this process. What tools and how have you, and what if, well, two things. What have you been doing to try to help with that thing? And what has been happening with the whole parent involvement that you've been seeing?
So my position's a little bit different. A lot of
Okay.
the direct communication does happen with homeroom teachers, but
Mhm.
what I've had to be most careful about in my assignments and reaching out is just kind of looking at the language that I used, not making any assumptions about whether it would be the parent or the child, or the parent and child reading together, or a sibling helping. And speaking to that disparity, we kind of look a little bit at our district at the fact that the language used in things we tend to send home
Mhm.
is not colloquial language, and it might depend on a certain level of education in order to read it, a certain level of formal education. We're all educated, but that's a whole other discussion. Um, so I just have been trying to be really mindful of my language, making space for if someone needs to get in touch with me by email or by Facebook, or if there's some other way that doesn't
Hmm.
fit right into the rigid structure of how the classroom is set up, making sure that's there. But most of my interactions have still been with the kids. And again, as a parent, I have 3 kids. And so I see that too. Sometimes I'm like, message your teacher. There's a lot of you guys.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And that's a really good, I mean, that actually is a really good point. Not using language that may be too high level. And also
We're
using
very
social media
specialized.
as, yeah,
You
and
know,
using
even
social media.
it's not a hard,
Mhm.
we're just very specialized. very specialized terminology, which, you know, it compounds the inequity of when things aren't translated or when they're translated incorrectly. And then something that's not quite right terminology, it just grows and grows, I think.
Yeah. Jazz, how have you been navigating that space with the parents?
Well, I'm currently a homeroom teacher, and charters are a little bit different with how much we communicate and how accessible we are sometimes to students. So most students do have my cell phone number. I do weekly check-ins with all of my students. We do like Zoom lessons and just like making sure that I am accessible to parents, like whatever they need, because they're dealing with the same that we're dealing with, and then they're having to support their children through all of this. So, you know, a lot of parents have called me to just vent or, you know, just kind of like to blow some steam off. And it's like, whatever I can do to help you and your child to be successful, then I'm all game.
Chelsea?
Like Jazmin, you kind of took the words right out of my mouth. I do weekly check-ins every Friday with my squad that's participating. For those who are not, because for me, being an exceptional education teacher, technically, it's like I'm only in control of my caseload. You know, I don't have to talk to the entire student body. It's just me and my 11. So it's just like my parents know they can text me, call me. They do. They call to vent. Some of the students just call just to say hi. It's not even educational related. It's just like, I miss you, you know. So it's very much you have access to me, and they will call me at whatever time, text me. My students have my phone number just in case they're going through anything. And those who are participating in enrichment, of course, if they have questions as far as the work that they're doing, they'll call me to ask for any help. But I'm pretty much accessible. They can contact me anytime.
Okay, so well, guys, this time has moved absolutely fast, and this has been a great conversation, right? So I'm going to allow you to do your thing real quick and just kind of tell people about what you may be doing in your personal life. I mean, I know that Brittany's writing a book. Oh, I'm so excited.
Ooh, nice.
I know that Brandi is the executive director of an organization decolonizing the classroom, right?
The music.
That's some serious stuff. Chelsea is in school working on some things. She has a clothing line, and Jazmin is my dog. We go on adventures together, and it's so funny that her name is Jazmin because my sister's name is Jazmin, and so like when we go on adventures, it's just like yay, you know. So tell us about what you're doing outside of it, whatever you want to promote or whatever you want people to know. You got about 6 minutes between all four of you. So we're gonna try to give them 3 points and close them out. All right. So and I will start with Brittany.
Okay, so I have a book that I have written and I'm publishing it. It's called Etymology Rules. It's the first book in a series called Etymology Rules Back to Basics is the first book. And so it's just about etymology, the origin of words, and it's super important when it comes to teaching literacy because you have to understand the language it is that we're trying to teach these children to read in. But also it's just important to understand the words that we use to describe everything in life. So please follow me on Instagram, Etymology Rules, and the book will be out this summer.
Congrats to your book, by the way. That's dope.
Yes. Yeah.
Congrats.
Write that down. Wait, I need to write that. I need to write that. Like you said, I'm founder and executive director of a fairly new nonprofit. We're almost a year old. We're called Decolonizing the Music Room, and our mission is around decentering dominant white narratives in music education. I'm talking about discourse and research and practice. I am starting my PhD, starting in the summer, fall in music ed. And as evidenced by all this stuff in the background, I'm a performing musician, so have some shows to record and some stuff coming up. And so like some days I'm just like, I ride my bike in a circle so my brain can turn off because there's a lot of stuff going on. It's good stuff though.
Okay. Jazz?
I just finished up my second master's in educational administration. So I'm now Yes, yes. I am now in the works of interviewing for principal positions.
Go
So
ahead, yo. Okay, go on, Jazz.
Go ahead, Charles.
Oh, I'm just so I think that y'all are doing lovely. I'm like, bro, go ahead, man. Y'all are doing it. You got Dr. Wall face. You know, go ahead. So, well, I am at Liberty University right now. 2 more classes to my master's in
Yes.
vision. So I too on the track to lead these, lead a building. I also positive inspirational clothing line. You guys can check it out at RG The Movement. Outside of that, I'm protecting my mental health. I'm exercising, kind of just COVID for me has given me a time to regroup, and just kind of get some things in order. So I'm working on getting my first home. I'm really excited about that. Just trying to, step up in the world, living.
So everybody, like, just to kind of let you guys know, these are all my really close friends. I mean, I met Brittany working in DC at Freedom Schools, working at a detention center. I met Brandi in college. I mean, we were like family at Howard in a music school. Chelsea is my sister's best friend. I've known her since she was a teenager. Yes. And has become my new adventure buddy with one of the people that you're going to meet next. So guys, thank you so much. It means so much to me that you guys would take your time out to actually do this with me as I do my crazy things. And so I'm going to say bye to all of you. You guys are more than welcome to watch the show after you get off. I'm about to bring on 2 more of my great friends. So bye, everybody. Let me my mouth over.
And congratulations, ladies. Congratulations to you all.
Thank
you. Yes. So we're about to go into the next segment of this show. And we have 2 amazing people on. One of them has been my best friend for years. I mean, when I tell you we go back like babies in pacifier, she has been around me since I was working at the Cheesecake Factory, and we became best friends off of a dare that I was given, and we have been with each other and stayed around each other for so long. And so I'm so glad to introduce Shea Lightfoot, and I'm about to share my screen with you guys so you can see exactly who she is and what she does. Y'all, please don't judge me because I'm just learning how to do this thing. So here we are. Oh, Shea Lightfoot. She's vice principal, I believe, at Trenton at Foundation Academy in Trenton, New Jersey. And we also have Marti. Come on. Marti Hill, and she is works for the administration in Woodbury City Schools in Woodbury, New Jersey. All right, so I'm about to bring them on with me right now. And let's get Jazmin out and Marti. There we are.
Hello.
Nice. So, I mean, I wanted to bring this conversation in with, let's do it this way. There we are. I wanted to bring you guys in because I wanted to go a little bit deeper into this conversation that we're having about the school system. And you guys work on a different level. The people that I had before were teachers, but you guys kind of work in the background. You don't necessarily, Shea does work with students because she's actually, but I think Marti is outside of the school, if I'm correct, right? Marti, mute yourself.
So yes, I'm in and out of the schools daily. But yes, most of my work is around in the background.
Hanging in the background.
Yeah, exactly.
So I got a couple of questions that I'm gonna ask you guys about what's going on and how you guys are seeing things from the spaces that you're in as far as education is concerned. And if I'm correct, Shea, you're a principal, right?
So my title is actually leader of student culture, but if you were to equate that to public school, it could be assistant principal or vice principal.
where my position, I support teachers in their classroom with classroom management. I also am in charge of the culture of the school, so that deals with discipline. That also deals with like field trip socials, incentives, things of that nature. So that's basically my role every day.
Okay. And Marti, what exactly do you do in the school system too?
So I am the director of curriculum and instruction for pre-K to 5. I am responsible for ensuring that we have a viable curriculum. I am also I ensure that teachers are well trained in the program and that they understand it. And then I observe to make sure that it's being implemented correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I work very closely with the principals to lead and guide their instructional decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I work with teachers to help them think through the best ways to reach their students.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I just wanted to put that out there. You're an AKA, right? I love it. All right, so let's get right into the questions, okay? Things that I wanted to ask you guys about was what social distancing measures do you guys feel are going to have to be put in place when the school year starts next year? I really didn't get a chance to. I was going to ask the teachers a little bit of a question, but I realized that we kind of ran short of time because it was only a 30 minutes. So maybe I should have did that for an hour to kind of get a little bit more feedback from them. But what are you guys thinking that you might do if the schools open up in September? What are you foreseeing is kind of going to be the setup in the classrooms?
So a couple suggestions that I'm seeing online is like distancing in the classroom, which I'm not exactly sure how possible that is because some of our classrooms are up to 30 students. So
Mm-hmm.
you can't possibly have 6-foot seating. So it might be different days for different students. I'm not exactly sure because right now I'm not exactly sure what that's going to look like. One of my duties every day is lunch duty. That will also be different because at that time I have 150 students in one room.
Oh, wow.
And so like that will also have to look different.
Mm-hmm.
I am curious to see like over time, like what that looks like, because I feel like right now there are certain changes with social distancing that takes place in certain areas that's not taking place in other areas. So
Mm-hmm.
like I'm really like curious to see what that would look like down the pipeline.
Mm-hmm. Marti?
I think there's a lot of things that are going to have to happen. And I think it needs to look differently. Just in the grade span that I work with alone, there are certain things that a kindergarten student, we can't expect them to do successfully that we might be able to expect from a 5th grader. So we're talking about different ways to have tables. We're talking about different ways to have lunch. There are rules about recess from the state of New Jersey. And so there are lots of things that are going to have to be adjusted. We even had a conversation earlier today about the possibility of needing to look again at the teacher contract because we are public. So we have teacher unions. And of course, we want to make sure it's not that we want to go against the union. We want to make sure that we're making decisions that are in the best interest of staff and students. And so thinking about just bringing everyone together for lunch, and then if they have to stay in the classroom, then how do you provide coverage for that? So those are the types of things, because if your contract says that you're allotted X amount of time for a prep period or a lunch period, then we still have to honor that, but we have to make sure everyone's safe at the same time. So there are a lot of moving parts that are going to go into these decisions. And I just say hats off to the governor's office for all the work that they've done thus far. We haven't gotten any solidified guidance yet around what September might look like, but I know the plan is actively in motion. And so looking forward to hearing what that looks like.
Okay. So, like, one of the things that I wanted to ask you guys too is that, I mean, I know that you're not necessarily in classrooms, but I was wondering because the conversation kind of turned to a socioeconomic one in the last conversation where we're seeing that COVID is kind of spotlighting the disparities that we have in certain communities. What have your schools done to make sure that all the children in your schools have all the tools and resources that they need to be able to do online learning?
So at my school, when we started to do remote learning, we provided opportunities for families to come up to our school to borrow laptops and also hotspots. And so that allowed them to have access to their teachers, to the classrooms, to be able to do their work remotely. One of my actual duties during that time is to communicate with parents that they need something, any other free resources that they weren't able to get a hotspot yet, because there were several companies that were offering like access to free online services during that time. But it took a couple weeks, but right now we have 100% of our parents that have access to the internet and their children have a laptop to be able to do the work daily.
Okay. Marti?
So, similarly to what Shea's school did, we also did the laptop distribution. We prioritized 6 through 8 first, then 3 to 5, then K to 2, and then pre-K in order. We also made sure that they had access to hotspots. In the interim, though, like as we were developing the plan, we did a large set of copies where parents could pick up packets while we're transitioning some of the kids who didn't have access to internet. I think one of the things that you brought up that is significant around the digital divide is even though in some cases we have 100% of our kids right now with access to devices, we still have a significant amount of them who have either interrupted participation or little participation at all. And so we have deployed some of the supports that we have available to us around what a child should be doing and what do you need. One of those things that happens when a parent is juggling all of these things is like education may not be priority at that time for that family, and trying to figure out how we can help them manage those other things so that education can land as a priority. So we're still in the mix doing that work, and we can't say that we're done yet, but that's definitely something that we have been troubleshooting and planning around.
I heard you say that you gave hotspots out. Like, how did that work? Like you guys were able to spend the money to give parents money for hotspots. I know, like one of the conversations that was happening when I was going, when my job started going
remote
at home. Yeah, remote. I'm sorry. Thank you, Shea. Remote. We were checking with everybody to make sure they had internet and everything like that. I mean, like it's interesting how many people sometimes don't find or see the need for internet in their homes. And so, like, like passing out hotspots and stuff like that. I mean, did the school find that it cost them a lot of money to actually get some of that done? Like, I mean, were you guys able to find the funding to do that, or have you guys been saving because of the schools being closed?
Well, to be honest, the budgeting part, as far as the money, is not my ministry.
Yeah.
However, one of the things that does give our organization a leg up is that a lot of our teachers already utilize laptops in their classroom. So we kind of already had the means. And believe it or not, a lot of like school districts homes already have access to the internet. So providing hotspots was just making sure like those that didn't have that consistent access to internet did receive a hotspot. But we had like a couple days that parents were able to come up to the school. They signed a contract acknowledging that they're responsible for the laptop if it's damaged or the technology. And I want to say, for the most part, when we first rolled out the plan, majority of the students were equipped with what they needed. I want to say it was like a couple of families that we were still trying to get them on the same page later down the line. But I think the fact that our school district already, and I think a lot of school districts already have like a lot of laptops and that technology, it was just a matter of assigning it and having a system to assign it to all of our families.
Let me ask you a question. I know one of the things that you said is like when you go back into the schools, they're going to be and this is just me being curious, and y'all might not even have the answer to this question, but I mean, I know one of the things that we dealt with in some of the schools that I was in is that the school classrooms were too large in the first place, right? They were packing a number of students inside the classroom. I know that they integrated some of the special ed kids who have IEPs that are educational, or even some behavioral ones who had IEPs into the general population. And the teacher just had to use strategies to be able to differentiate or like using different tools to try to make sure that they were able to teach everybody on their different levels. The whole teaching. So do you think that this, one of the positive aspects of this is that the classrooms may be smaller?
So I think that it's a good thing. Anytime you have less kids and your ratio decreases, that's good. I don't think that it's going to be positive in this sense necessarily, just because the schools are the reason for them packing the classrooms with a lot of students is just around funding and resources. And so to say that there's even space in some buildings to spread kids out is not true, unfortunately.
Wow. Okay.
So to say that, and then if we spread them out, then there has to be a body in there. With them already losing roughly 6 months of school, you want that person to be a certified teacher. On the special education side, yes, the goal has been to place students in their least restrictive environment. So that's why academically and behaviorally, you'll see a lot of students trying to be mainstreamed in the classrooms. Sometimes placements are in the best interest of kids, and sometimes, again, for lack of better resources, they have to go with what happened. So add COVID-19 on top of that, and I think that's why we haven't seen real structured plans yet from hardly any states. Even the states that have released things, if you look through them, they're still in the early stages of sketching those ideas.
Shea, did you have anything to say on that?
I think for us, the way, because I do work at a charter school. For us to spread out is not, we cannot accommodate that. That's why I am curious to see like how plans develop over time of like what that's going to look like returning to school. Because I just don't know right now. Because one of the disparities that I see is like there's certain businesses or areas that are starting to scale back on their social distancing or some of their practices during COVID-19, but I haven't seen the same for schools. So like I just feel like we're kind of like in limbo as far as what the governor is going to decide, like what some of our plans are for school right now. So right now, like where I'm at mentally is just trying to provide normalcy for our kids right now. Trying to have a strong finish to the school year. I'm trying to provide support for our family and students, because if we do start remote learning in August, we have more of background knowledge of what that should look like, what it should sound like, what resources, what support we need to have for our parents, because definitely we're going to need it across the board.
Let me just ask a question. I mean, I know that they were saying that they were seeing some of the kids fall off. What strategies are you using to kind of bring them back into the fold if that's starting to happen? I mean, you're saying that you work with 1st through 5th, and I know it's probably difficult to keep kids' attention on a screen to actually do work. And like, what type of strategies are you guys using to keep them involved or even keep the parents involved?
Marti, you want to go first?
Yeah. So some of the things that we've tried are just things that we tried when we're in school, right? So some of the things that we're facing are the same things that we face when we are face to face with kids. So We've done lunch bunches with kids. We've had teachers just log on and play games and try to connect with them outside of academics. They continue to build and maintain that rapport that they have with their students. And so now if I don't log in, Miss So-and-so misses me, and I feel a little bit more accountable. Have roundtables for parents so that they can ask questions and voice their opinions in areas that they need support in, and try to align our supports around that. Another tactic that we used was to use our special area teachers to do fun activities that they can try out at home. We're going to do a virtual field day. Visits to families' houses to celebrate if they did well on some of our digital resources that we use, just to try and build excitement and campaign around staying connected to the learning environment. We're almost done, and that kind of thing.
That's a virtual field day. Get out. Right. Okay. Miss Lightfoot.
Well, I work with middle school students, so I rely on threats.
Because you're over student culture, right?
Yes. So my tactics are a little different. Because one of the things that I realized with middle school students who I love and adore, I've worked with middle school students for almost 10 years, is that they're at the tender age where they are left to be independent to do the work because they know how to do the work independently. But they also, some of them lack the self-discipline to consistently do the work every day. So some of the strategies that I have employed is talking to students directly. A lot of our middle school students have their own cell phones, so we have conversations about the work directly with each other. Creating group texts with the parent, the student, and the teachers all together, so we're all on the same page. Things of that nature. Like even moving forward, it's just like trying to have engaging lessons for the students. Just trying to build the capacity that they already know through comments or feedback on their work, and just trying to be consistent with them. And those are some of the strategies that we have been using. We're trying to move forward more with like more positive motivation. So we're going to be launching like our online awards recognition for our students for their hard work in the last quarter. And so just acknowledging them, because even though they're in middle school and they think that they're older, they still like to be acknowledged for their work and their name to be called out, and think they still look for that type of recognition from their parents and their teachers. So those are some of the strategies that we're starting to use. But to just be transparent, like this is like a new era for all of us, and like just we're figuring out things as we go. And seeing what works and what doesn't work.
Okay, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
As like a joke with some of my other friends that are in administration, we all want our money back from college because none of it covered anything that we're going through right now. So we're all just kind of trying to use what we know and use our best to try and make the best decisions for kids.
Yes.
So let me just tell you that I have bleeding liberals on my and so one of them has asked a question, and this is Cat Morris. He's a lawyer at one of the community legal organizations here. And hey, Shea, I think the question's covering your face a little bit. So like if you can
this is fancy. I like how this looks and it comes up on the screen.
So he was like, you may have asked this, but I'm curious if socioeconomic disparities are showing up in E-class or in the way vulnerable children learn or don't learn. And so like I think we kind of talked about the special ed aspect of it, right? But I guess if you guys want to kind of expound on it just to kind of revisit it, and then we're going to pivot back to some closing statements, okay? So, I mean, if you guys want to kind of just run through this a little bit more for CAD, because what are the disparities you guys are seeing outside the ones that I asked for, and what are the things that you feel like you're most concerned about? Okay.
So some of the disparities that I'm seeing is just trying to give resources to our parents to support their kids at home. Some of them are essential workers, so they're not at home. So they're assuming their child is doing what they need to do on the computer. And some of them, and majority of them are, to be honest with you. We have 270 students, about 270 students in our middle school. And I would like to say majority of them are. We actually have an 89% completion rate of our students doing their work and attending classes every day, which I think is, a pretty good number. Our goal is 95, and I am confident that we'll reach our goal by the end of the school year. But it's just providing resources for those parents and how they can support their child at home. So like giving them resources of how to create workspace at home, giving them, what does that workspace look like? Just making sure, because our kids have a full schedule every day from 8:30 to 4 p.m. They even have a built-in lunch schedule. And so just trying to give those resources to parents, because the roles have reversed us, where we're calling them like, hey, so-and-so hasn't completed their work, and then they're following up with them at home, where we used to call them for help to talk to them on the phone. So that's been interesting too. It's just making sure our parents are equipped with the tools to help them at home. As far as our students who have IEPs or 504s, there have been adjustments, work is modified for them. Even the time schedule of their classes is also modified for them. And so some of the things you have to think, we have to put in things in place in school, and they're in a controlled environment. We have to also put those parameters in place with them being at home as well.
I would definitely agree with that. I think some things that we also had to do is after we were in digital learning, the digital learning platform for a while, it's okay, certain students, actually some students that were at home, before digital learning, they were not doing well. They actually excelled with the ability to be private and kind of get your work done as you get to it. A unique thing that we experienced that I don't think we planned for was some teacher technology. So teachers not either having access to the internet or all our teachers have a device, but when we think about teacher salaries across the country, I saw something on School District of Philadelphia where teachers could leave their lessons in the parking lot of the school to be connected to Wi-Fi. Another thing is we have an interesting configuration. We have 2 teachers in the classroom in most classrooms, and our instructional assistants. They range from newer teachers who are just out of school to teachers that may have taught for 40 years, 30 years, and then retired. And so their ability to navigate technology falls on a continuum. We had to provide supports there as well. There definitely are some areas where there are some divides for staff and for parents. And sometimes there's a divide for parents just because of the work that they do. So if I'm home or I'm furloughed or I have a work from home job, I'm fine, except for I'm trying to manage my work and not lose my job and maintain my relevancy. All my kids, to make sure that I don't, I don't have to there. So those are some of the things that we're up against. Some things have been handled on a state level in terms of guidance and laws that have been changed by the prosecutor's office. They've done a really good job taking care of your ESY, which is extended school year for your special education. They are allowed to now do a digital program. For being honest, and we think about the students that we're servicing, it's not the same, especially for our younger students. Our older students could do a little bit more with a hybrid program, but our younger students, they need additional supports.
So it looks like, guys, do you mind if we stay on a little bit longer than expected because it looks like y'all got questions coming in.
Oh, okay.
You mind that? Are you okay with it?
Okay.
So y'all gonna kind of laugh at the next person, but the question that they brought in. He was actually a guest on my last show. The challenges with the teacher's accountability in terms of providing consistent instruction.
Did Marti go somewhere?
Yeah, you go ahead. You go first. Oh,
can you just? Oh, there's Marti.
Yeah.
Can you just say the question again?
Yes, I'll display it again. Hold on 1 second. There you go.
In terms of the teacher's accountability in terms of providing consistent instruction. We actually have, we utilize Google Classroom. That's our main format with giving instruction to our students. Right now, it's just making sure I can say, at least for the school that I'm in, the middle school that I am, teachers have been on the board as far as making sure that they're ready and planned and ready for students to be able to do their work daily. If there is a situation where a teacher is not there, like for instance, right now I'm covering for our physical education and health teacher. He just had a baby. So I'm posting the assignments for him and grading the assignments and making sure that they're getting back to the students so they have feedback for their work. So we've actually been very consistent with making sure that work is updated, uploaded. Teachers are able to either teach their class live or do pre-recorded sessions and post those videos so students are able to do their work. One of the advantages that we have at my school is that teachers are provided cell phones. So they utilize the cell phones to keep in contact with students and parents. So if there are any questions or concerns or issues, the students and the parents have access to them. And so we pretty much, like for that part of it, we pretty much had a smooth transition into online learning. Also, I think because teachers were utilizing these online services prior to this even happening.
Okay. So they kind of knew how to use the technology before.
Correct. And if
before.
Yeah. And if they didn't know, because there's some teachers that are more tech savvy than others, the teachers who didn't know had other resources, other teachers that asked them to coach them through how they could set up their classroom. So I do feel like school districts that were already utilizing these online platforms had a smoother transitions than other school districts that might have been more traditional of using paper or not utilizing, computers and online. That probably would be a bigger adjustment for them.
Okay. All right. Wow. So there are quite a few questions. So let's do this. You just answered that question. Let me give this next question to Marti, okay? Because it seems like Dan is on he has a lot of questions. Boom. Has the school district been able to assist non-instructional staff, i.e. class aides, administrative?
Yeah, so we actually had a unique opportunity here. We have been wanting to offer additional professional development to our aides and administrative support teams. So we used the opportunity in the first weeks that we were off to really just jump into a lot of professional development for them. We held like group Zooms with them so that they could have dialogue with one another around what they were learning. Incorporated that into our expectations for them for next year. And then once we felt like they had significant training, we actually allowed them to join again with the teacher, and they had some of their own Zoom or Screencastify or any of the digital things that we use. They jumped in and supported the teacher. Some just calling kids who we haven't seen in a while or are not participating consistently, and some of it was around actual instruction.
Okay. All right. And so I guess here, this is a really good question, actually, and I'm actually curious about this too. Has the school district done anything specifically to help the students who get free or reduced lunch?
Yes. So at my school, they've done, they provided free pick up for meals at the school. So families were able to come up and get meals daily at one point. I believe it still might be daily, but yes, they have been providing lunch for our families in Trenton for them to come up and pick up a lunch.
And I know that Trenton is a city, so it might be a little bit more easy to access. I mean, the school may be a little bit more accessible for the parents, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But how? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm done.
Yeah, but Marti, I mean, you guys are in a county. You're not necessarily in a city, so how are you supporting that whole issue, making sure that the kids aren't going hungry because some of the kids really depend on this food?
We actually have a really diverse population in our school district. So we have kids with very high socioeconomic status alongside of kids that have lower socioeconomic status and those that are just in the middle. So routinely we have a food bank that happens weekly anyway. So even when in session, we have that. And so at first they continued it and then they kind of deemed that it wasn't as safe to do it in the manner that we were doing it. So they did the same thing. We bagged the lunches, we bagged meals. We actually started creating meals for a week or 2 weeks at a time that families could come get, and then they would come back for the next distribution. And that's how we kind of worked with that.
That's amazing. You guys have actual food bank.
That is amazing.
Yeah. So this is the last question I'm going to make you guys answer because I think this is the last question. So wait a minute. Hold on. Oh, here we go. So are there any specific efforts to help teachers, i.e. add pay, since they're now using some of their own resources Wi-Fi to work?
Not yet.
Go ahead, Marti. Sorry.
No, you can go. I'm sorry.
Right now, not exactly, because our school district gives teachers laptops and cell phones. So they don't have to utilize their own personal laptops or their own personal cell phones to work with students with their online classroom. So right now, I would say no. Not to say in the future, if this is a long-term plan, what that might look like.
Okay. Marti?
I would agree with that. We don't give cell phones to teachers, but we do give laptops. We've kind of worked with some teachers, like giving hotspots if they needed it. But other than that, there really hasn't been anything. I think most districts are concerned about the future in terms of funding, both short-term and long-term. So even districts that got their funding this year think that there might be challenges next year.
So I just want to say thank you guys so much.
You're welcome.
So much. So I mean, I guess closing out because we're a little bit over our time. Is there anything that you guys want to say to everybody, or is there anything that you are doing in the background that you want everybody to know? And I will start with Miss Sun. Is here.
So no, just that we appreciate everyone's concerns and everyone's support for the education system throughout this whole process. I would ask that anyone who has power make sure that before we bring our babies back into school, that we have plans that make sense and that are actually going to work. And know that we're all working in the background to make sure that they continue to be connected to the learning experience. And I'm just really glad that I was a part of this.
Shea?
I would just like to this message I would like to give to everybody is that, you know, we're all in this together. I know everybody's seen the commercials with celebrities saying this, and I feel like they're in a different boat than us, but we are all in this together. And then just knowing that coming from our position, like we just want to support and we just want to make sure our kids are learning. This is such a traumatic experience for all of us. And at the end of the day, we still want our kids to be thriving and learning and flourishing in the best way possible that we can do it in this situation. And so like just knowing like from parents, like we're not, we're here to support, we're here for a resource. Reach out if there's something that's going on. We just want to make sure, like I said in the beginning, like we have a sense of normalcy for our children, because now they will look back at this experience when they get older and they will never forget this. So we want it to not be as traumatic. And so that's why we have such efforts with the normalcy of continuing their education, not to inconvenience anybody, because at the end of the day, our kids matter. And so that's just what, a message that I just want, our family and the public to know.
Okay. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And the funny thing about this is that y'all are all actually my friends. Like, we hang out. We do.
Yes.
And for you guys to take the time to put your professional hats on and to support me in this, it really means so much to me. Like, I'm a crier most of the time, but like, thank you so much. All right.
Yeah.
I'll probably be calling you in a couple of minutes. All right.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. So now, in closing out, I just want to say that one of the things that I have noticed about this COVID thing is that it's affecting people in so many different spaces. I'm extremely thankful that I have been privileged to be in a space that I am not necessarily completely inconvenienced. But I do recognize that there are things that are happening around the world to people, and that people are going through real traumas. There are people who are probably at homes locked down with their abusers. There are probably parents trying to figure out how they're going to get food for their children. We got one check, maybe, and that was last month. What about this month? So like, I really feel like that this COVID thing is really spotlighting certain areas that we are struggling in as a country, period. I think that's one of the reasons why I decided to have these conversations. The last one that I had was on mental health, because as a person who is now working from home and your whole life has completely changed, we need to make sure that we are staying on top of our mental health, that we're not lashing out at people that are in our homes, whether it be our children or our partners or even our friends. We want to make sure that we're staying connected with them. Even like trying to do virtual things like church or happy hours. Make sure you stay connected in those things, because those are the things that kind of keep you sane, even if it's going out for a walk or anything. The one that we did today on education, because it's really concerning to me. I used to work in a charter school and detention center when I lived in DC. I taught high school students, and I can only imagine what the learning environment would be for them and what's happening for them inside lockdown. Next week, you'll get a different view. I'm going to have some of my friends from around the world come on. Right now, I believe I have somebody from Ireland that's going to be on, somebody from South Africa that's going to be on with me next week. I'm going to also have somebody from China that's living in China right now. And I'm also trying to find someone from Central America to come on and talk to us about what's going on in their respective countries, how this COVID is affecting them. And mind you, like, these are just all my friends. I talk to these people randomly, and this is a great way for me to keep in contact with them, but also just kind of figure out what's going on in their lives and how this has really affected them in their spaces. So make sure you check me out next week. This is going to probably be something that I do on a weekly basis. I've randomly decided Tuesdays at 8. So make sure you check in and check me out with Talks with Alex. Thank you so much for staying on. I really, really appreciate you for giving me your time and watching me have conversations with my friends. I hope you guys have a great night.